The last time Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje locked horns in 2018, they produced one of the greatest fights in lightweight history. A lot has changed since then. Poirier is now a multi-millionaire who still works as hard as his old self and is a dangerous man to deal with in a fistfight, but Gaethje is a devil, especially with the improvements he has made to his game in the past few years. That only means one thing. The rematch between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje will be bananas. Who will win this time around? Let's find out. Both Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are 6-2 in their 8 fights since their first bout in 2018, and both have lost to the same men, Khabib and Charles Oliveira. Both are coming off wins. Gaethje against the electric Rafael Fiziev, and Dustin Poirier against a dangerous Michael Chandler, and both are in their primes, so whichever of the two wins the BMF title will well and truly deserve it. Dustin Poirier is one of the finest strikers in the UFC lightweight division who has ridiculous power in both his fists. A southpaw who heavily relies on his boxing to win fights, Poirier usually lands his left cross to devastating effect, but he isn't the kind of fighter to throw 1 or 2 punch combinations, especially from the 3rd round onwards. Poirier starts off by using his jab and leg kicks to measure range, as well as outpoint his opponents, but when he has everything figured out, he starts unleashing heat in the form of 4 and 5 punch combinations. Poirier's volume is insane, and he isn't afraid to turn it into an ugly slugfest because he trusts his chin and durability. Much of Poirier's offense comes from his educated movement. He understands when to move forward and when to take a back step. Add that to his painful punches and crushing leg and body kicks, the diamond is a nightmare to deal with inside the cage. But so is Justin Gaethje 2.0. When they fought for the first time in 2018, Gaethje was nothing more than a reckless brawler who'd lunge forward and swing wildly with little to no regard for defense, which cost him against Poirier. This time around, we should expect the Arizona native to stay back and let Poirier close the distance and leave himself out for counters. Gaethje doesn't initiate attacks these days. Instead, he lets his opponents do the honors so he could counter with an uppercut or looping shots. Even at the hint of an aggressive move from his opponent, Gaethje counters like a raging pit bull. He battered Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, and Rafael Fiziev with counterattacks, and that is why his rematch with Poirier will be far more competitive. Add all of that to Gaethje's devastating calf kicks that were working wonders in his first fight against Poirier. This is not an easy fight for Poirier at all. If anything, it's the toughest fight of his career, and he should prepare for a war unlike any he's had in his career. It's Poirier's volume versus Gaethje's counterattacks, and it'll keep us all on the edge of our seats. What if the fight hits the mat, however? Both Poirier and Gaethje are predominantly strikers and like to stand and trade shots, but we cannot rule out the possibility of a few grappling exchanges, especially when panic wrestling could come into play. When two hard-hitting fighters trade shots, the possibility of one or the other getting hurt is pretty high, and that could force the one on the receiving end of big punches into shooting for takedowns. Poirier is a very fine wrestler, with excellent takedowns in the open and against the cage. Once he takes the fight to the mat, he's even more dangerous with his vicious punches and elbows from top position. Poirier has great top control, and he doesn't mind submitting people if he has an opportunity to cash onto two. Gaethje is a former NCAA Division I wrestler, but we rarely see him shooting for takedowns. He prefers to keep the fight standing because he loves violence, so unless he gets badly rocked, he won't wrestle. In any case, Gaethje uses his wrestling to defend takedowns and keep the fight standing from what we have seen in his UFC fights. He doesn't really like submissions either, so don't expect the highlight to pose any wrestling threat to Poirier. The fight will likely be an all-out striking battle between two of the finest strikers in the UFC, who are pretty even in almost every area. This fight has all the tools of being the fight of the century, and we can't wait for it. Who will come out on top?